Allstate wants to remind fans that mayhem is everywhere. Like when your fantasy league meets up at your house. Everything's great until the hot plate gets too hot for the tablecloth. Now your kitchen's up in smoke. And if you don't have the right home insurance coverage, the cost to fix this is anything but a fantasy. So switch to Allstate, save money, and get protected from mayhem like this. Not available in every state based on coverage selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Savings vary.
Seriously, Diane, was Colgate your secret to winning Best Smile back in high school?
Yep, and it still is. I even work overnight.
Huh?
Colgate's Optic White Overnight Whitening Pen works overnight. So after 1 week, I can show up confident and reunion ready.
And here I was bragging about my kids.
Colgate Optic White. Find it at all major retailers.
On this week's Cardiff Central podcast, we catch up with Cardiff Arms Park announcer Rob Toogood, covering his time as on the terraces at the Arms Park, his job as the announcer at the stadium, as well as covering all sorts of Cardiff Town Centre shenanigans in nightlife across the last couple of years. Enjoy listening.
Welcome to the Cardiff Central podcast.
Hello, welcome back to the Cardiff Central podcast. My name's Dan, back in the host chair this week, and I'm joined by regular co-host Harley. Harley, how are you?
Yeah, all good, thanks. How was Summerfest?
Summerfest was very good. Yes, it was a very good day. I timed it perfectly to turn up just as the rain stopped. So I class myself as bringing the sun from west with me until getting to Cardiff. But we're also joined by another special guest in our summer of special guest podcasts. So we've got a man who his voice you may recognise as the voice of the Arms Park, Rob Toogood. Rob, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, Summerfest was interesting, wasn't it? I must say it was. You're right. We should have perhaps we could have put it back an hour, and we could have had the summer in Summerfest. But it was good. It was good. It was a good experience for the fans and the kids, mainly, to meet all the players, wasn't it?
Yeah, I got me and my little one and my other half got there, I think probably about 12 o'clock-ish or whatever. So we missed like the initial rush of the big crowds, but the pitch was still absolutely packed with little ones enjoying the masterclass and stuff, which, I mean, that's what that's all about, really. And the kids getting the chance to run around on the pitch with their heroes, not a bad thing at all, is it? Right, so we've got a bunch of questions. We've got loads of stuff coming on socials, but Rob, we'll start with going back to as a fan away from the announcement and stuff, growing up in Cardiff. Where does your Cardiff rugby journey start? What's your earliest memories of the Blue and Blacks in the Arms Park?
I was thinking about this because I went to Kitchener Road in Riverside, and we had a teacher there, Dave Pedwell. He's a big hockey player, Dave, but also into all his sport. And I remember he took myself and a friend of mine to a game at the Arms Park. I remember sitting in the north, in the south. I remember being under floodlights, and I remember it was Terry Holmes and Gareth Davis playing. That's all I know, because I'm talking primary school, so I was, below the age of 10. So I remember that. And then in later years then, it was sort of like, I remember being a student and going to see the Barbarians matches on the bank holiday. I remember one match that we had, Tikhonov and Mironov, two Russian players playing for the Barbarians, which was random. And so it's just like, that's my earliest memories, and then I've gone to matches, really, and then before I started working there, really, because so we'll get onto that now.
Well, what's a favourite game that stands out for you as a supporter, or a favourite memory?
I was just looking. I got the date for this. 2001 is Iestyn Harris's debut. So I was on the North Terrace down the far end, watching him just kick those balls into the corner, and Anthony Sullivan pass them and score 3 tries. I'll catch them. It was just, I remember it was sort of like, oh my goodness me, Iestyn Harris. You've seen all the sort of hype about when he came back from, he came from league, and he just like, it was a masterclass. I remember seeing an interview yesterday where he just said, every time I get the ball, I just think, how do I score a try from this? It was, he was just instantly like attack minded. Yeah, he just caught the ball, chipped into the corner, Sully caught it, bang, in 3 tries. So he scored 3 tries and Sullivan scored 3 tries, I remember. So that was one of the, as a fan, that was one of the biggest ones I remember, and that Barbarians game. But yeah, as a fan, And the other match that sticks in my mind, I had to get the dates for this, was the '97 Swaylet Cup in the Arms Park, which was the last game at the old stadium before they fully developed it. So I remember that because Nigel Walker, I was on the East Terrace as anyone sane was in the old stadium on the East Terrace, and then Nigel Walker scored the sort of winning try down the touchline. Had scored in the corner right by us, and we just went ballistic, and pints went everywhere, you know. And it was a wet day anyway. I remember had a long wax jacket on, and literally this was. So anyway, so that was quite a good night. And if you remember, when they were knocking that stadium down, there was that sort of hysteria of trying to get a souvenir of the Arms Park.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff had almost been sold that day. So I came back to I was in my house in Llandaff at the time, and my girlfriend was in there with her parents, and I came back with a toilet seat around my neck. Which I had liberated her, and I don't think she quite saw the significance of it as much as I'd like, look at this, darling. She's like, why have you got a toilet seat around your neck? But you know, it made sense at the time, didn't it?
And only imagine the sights that toilet seat has seen over the years.
I was in my back garden for years, and then she finally threw it away without me knowing. I said, well, you know, it's literally a black plastic toilet seat. I wasn't like, you know, Giovanni, and I could have sold stretches of grass for like £10 each in a pizza box, like he did, bless him.
So where does that turn into becoming the Arms Park announcer then? What's the journey to that position for you?
I did. I guess my biggest job over the years has been DJing. Basically, I did a lot of nightclub DJing, the Philharmonic. There's some good Cardiff stories from the Philharmonic, and then live lounge in later years. But 1996, after university, I think it was, I was in Cardiff Met, and that time was good because you had people like Ben Evans and so many players from Cardiff going through Cardiff Met at the time. And anyway, so I went to America when my sister was living in Florida, and we went to watch the Chicago Blackhawks versus the Tampa Bay Lightning in the Thunderdome. And we're watching the match, and there was all the sort of, you know, all the bells and whistles of an NHL match, and the announcer and everything, and the music. I remember saying to my sister, I said, I could do that. What a job that is. I could have a go at that. And I came back, and within a week, there was in the days when the Western Mail Thursday had all the jobs in it, it had an advert saying Cardiff Devils are looking for a match day announcer and DJ. I'm like, what the heck? So I literally applied for it. Probably applied for it with, there's probably hardly anyone but me had an idea to do that job, you know, at that time. This is 1996. Went to the Devils, interviewed by Dave Temmie and Paul Guy, got the job, did 2 seasons in the Super League, and learned that. I went to see Manchester Storm in the 9X Arena as well at the time. That was amazing, a lot there. Did that for 2 seasons, and then drifted away from it and carried on just doing the sort of club DJing and stuff. And then I got a job in the Army Prep College in Cardiff Bay, and I started hosting their end of season sort of awards and loving it, and with the crowd and everything. And my boss sort of saying, yeah, you know, you can do this quite well. And I thought, right, sod it. So I wrote a letter to the ice hockey team, Devils, the Cardiff City Football Club, and to Cardiff Rugby, and they all wrote back and said yes, okay. So I was like, I've literally got 3. So I thought, I can't do the ice hockey as well. And then I went for a while. I did the football and the rugby, and this is Ninian Park, so it was a different. I grew up within sight of Ninian Park, so did that for a while. It was interesting, different. Pardon the pun, different ball game to rugby, obviously. But the Cardiff thing was, so I went to the Arms Park for an interview with Tina Chu, bless her. Tina was a commercial manager at the time then. Of course, this is 2003, at the beginning of the regional rugby scene. So I had a meeting with Tina. We had a chat about what we wanted to do. And we had, you know, I remember sat in her desk, and behind her on the wall, she had a huge black and white advert from the Rebel season. And it was a huge picture of Di Young with his bandage around his head and a bit of blood dripping down. And the picture was black and white, but the blood was in colour. And the slogan just said, "Rebels with the cause." Which is, it chokes me up now, that sort of time when we were, you know, at that level, you know. Anyway, so I had the interview with Tina, and then she sort of said, "Oh yeah, okay, sounds good, Rob." She said, "Well, I had a chat with Bob, and we went outside, and she brought in Bob Norster, and I was like, as a fan, I'm like, it's Bob Norster. So I'm chatting to Bob, and Bob's an absolute gentleman. You meet him, and he's a proper rugby guy. He'll he ask what you played. Who'd you play for? Oh, Canton. Oh, yeah, Canton, great club. And then so we had a chat, and it looked like it was going well. Then as we left the office, then this voice says, Bob, and he calls out, and it's Gareth Edwards. I'm like, what is going on? Literally, like, just within a minute, I just met Bob Norris and then Gareth Edwards. So we had a chat, and went from there. So we started 2003. I think at the time I was doing the music, the scoreboard, the match clock, and the announcing, and we kind of it kind of emerged from there, really. So that's the beginning of it, and here we are, 23 years later.
So yeah, so 23 years, huge time. So what are your favourite bits that have come out from doing the match day announcements and everything?
One of the favourite bits, weirdly, was when there wasn't a match going on. So 2018 Bilbao, right? So Peter, God bless him, Peter Thomas took nearly everyone involved with the club to Bilbao to watch that game. But I couldn't make it for whatever reason, he says diplomatically. And so I sort of hosted the viewing at the Arms Park. So we all stood in the grandstand and watched it on a big screen. And that was amazing, when Anscombe kicked that last minute penalty, or whatever, the last minute kick, the noise, it was like there wasn't. We were away. We were watching it in the Arms Park, and the noise when that kick went over. So that was a really, really good moment. When I'm doing the games, it's strange because you kind of concentrate a lot, and it sounds bizarre, but you don't really. I don't know. Sometimes I finish the game and I think, right, what went on there? Because you're thinking about minute by minute. But then there's Jonah Lomu, Jonah in Calvert, watching Jonah play. So the Jonah Lomu story is crazy because I was DJing in the Philharmonic, and my girlfriend at the time, my partner Angie, texted me and said that she'd just seen on teletext that Jonah Lomu had signed for Cardiff Blues. I'm like, what? And I remember announcing it on the microphone in the Philharmonic, and people going, "Are you for real?" And because it literally caught everyone by surprise. And yeah, and so seeing Jonah play and meeting Jonah Lomu was and interviewing him, and he was the absolute nicest flipping bloke. So I think seeing Jonah there, the other biggest moment for me was, again, going back to Peter Thomas, when Peter passed away last year, and we did the sort of memorial for Peter and all the ex-players and so many people on the Arms Park. Doing that was so emotional, because that was the Friday and we did that for that match, and then on Tuesday my own dad had passed away, so it was one of the biggest moments working that gig for me, of like having to focus and say, when I had to say, so the speech was like, without Peter Thomas there wouldn't be a Cardiff Rugby Club. For me, that almost chokes me up now. And my dad would come to every game. He'd sit up in the grandstand in front of me, and he'd love it, and it's like that was a huge thing for me. The matches, they sometimes pass in a blur, because you literally say, right, who scored, and right, you're in the press box looking at it saying, right, who do we think scored, guys? So it does go in a blur. But those are the big moments. Jonah, the Bilbao match, which was amazing, and the Peter thing, and it's like, it's always good fun. It's always a challenge.
Yeah, See, I was just thinking of Bilbao. I just remember being in the crowd that day.
It's mental, isn't it?
It was one of the best experiences of watching a game not live. Yeah. So beat any other fans that I've been to anyway. So sort of more on the silly side now. So what I think someone's angling towards a particular incident, but so Charlie on Twitter asked, what's the most embarrassing mistake or moment that's happened when you've done the announcing?
I should have asked Charlie this. So I was literally asking my mates in my WhatsApp group, what have I done that's really embarrassing? Because I mess up all the time, and I just laugh about it. But I do remember, Peter Jackson from the Daily Mail wrote in the Daily Mail that we played Harlequins one day, and I said, please welcome today's losers. And I literally did not say that. And I have the clipping of the Daily Mail article. I'm like, no, Peter, right. And I've seen Peter since. I'm like, didn't do that, Peter, but there we are. So I don't remember. We should have asked Charlie I've made loads of mistakes. And I just laugh about it. I've done the wrong players. I have friends that text me all the time, asking me to say happy birthday to horrendous names, like Phil McCavity, but far far worse. So I rarely, I all the time. Oh, it's so and so's birthday. Yeah, yeah, okay. And people, if I know someone in the terrace, they're always messaging me, because they know you're there, and it's like, but yeah, you just get used to it, and you just screen stuff out, and I've had other friends who are sort of there's a little group of stadium announcers, and we've all had them over the years. You always get caught by things, but you've got to be, otherwise you just go viral. So I don't know what he was on about. Maybe there was one I've forgotten, but I don't dwell on those things. I just carry on regardless.
I had a question down. It was something that's come up a bit this weekend. I watched so Liverpool were the Sunday afternoon football, and they stopped the Sky Sports coverage to sort of just take in the atmosphere of like "You'll Never Walk Alone" and stuff before the game. And there was some comments about would other sports and teams stop to get that sort of coverage, and made me think about you mentioned there about going through the music and that, and how much thought goes into sort of building the atmosphere and that sort of pre-match fan culture from your side, because obviously there's certain clubs that have got certain traditions and that around it, but yeah, how much do you consider that on a sort of game by game basis?
When I started, I was obsessive over it. Literally, you might remember that we used to choose songs for the opposition to run out to.
Yeah.
So of course the Dragons ran out to Puff the Magic Dragon, which was brilliant. My favourite one was the Scarlets warming up, and it was Chris de Burgh's Lady in Red, which I thought was quite good. And so I used to really go into it. Nowadays, Mike, who you had on last week, Mike does more of that, and we have Stacey Couples, who's doing the music now, who is, I think, as the seasons go on, we're going to try and up that. I have my friend Lance does Bristol, I gotta get this right, Bristol Rovers Football Club, and he really makes a play of it, really does a sort of fans playlist before the game, does it on Twitter, gets people to ask, I used to really love all that, and we could probably do more of that. Mike won't mind me saying that we could be a bit more reactive on what people want. We used to ask the players what they wanted, but they have really shocking taste in music. But if it was me, it'd be non-stop heavy metal, so we couldn't have that. But yeah, we could do more. I mean, the stadium next door, I'm always chatting with Alex Luff there, because they used to run on to the Wales used to run on to Guns N' Roses, Welcome to the Jungle. And I was like, why are they running on to a San Francisco, an LA glam band? So now they run on to Budgie Bread Band, which is a fantastic heavy rock band from Ely, So we probably could. I think we will. We're having the time to do it and to sit down and maybe not offend anyone. It's hard nowadays. Those things and there was also a News of the World article when we were struggling back sometime during our illustrious career, struggling. Di was the coach on his first time around, and we'd lost another game. And I remember the News of the World said the strains of the Kaiser Chiefs I predict a riot rang out around the Arms Park as Cardiff suffered another defeat. So that was quite good. So someone had heard that, So yeah, I'd love to do more. It's just it's also trying to make sure we don't cater for the one audience, because part of it is always trying to make it attractive to youngsters. And you and I might want stadium rock non-stop, but there's different audiences nowadays, I don't know. Anyway, that's just my thoughts.
Because one of the things I remember back from a couple of seasons ago, I quite liked, was that when different players scored, they all had their own sort of themes. You had like the Adams Family for Josh, and Lane Life in the Fast Lane. I said I'd love to see more of that, but I suppose you get to a point where you run out of the links become tenuous.
It can be done, yeah. Part of that was technological. We literally, my colleague that I used to have with me, Chris, he moved on, and you have like a sort of, when I started the Devils back in '96, we had I remember ringing up the guy from London Knights or Manchester Storm and what they used, and they had a hard disk recorder which had 50 buttons on it, and every single button was a different soundbite. It's what they use on sort of Chris Moyles' radio show now. So when they sort of have a bang at a sound thing, there were 50 different instant sound bites. So it can be done. So like Stacey now, I think there's so many little sample pads you can use. So it can be done. And yeah, you're right though. It was picking the players and yeah, you're right. Finding the links they have. But yeah, Life in the Fast Lane was a cracking one with Laney. I thought that was really good. I think he liked that, Owen did. Yeah, Josh Adams, the Adams family. Yeah, it just takes a bit of time. But yeah, Stacey's on board now and she's great. And she comes from a sort of DJing background. And yeah, I think we hopefully will maybe go down that route further as we look towards the next season or so.
Yeah. So going on with the atmosphere, obviously, you had a bit of a relationship with Robbo, who up in mad corner of the Southwest Terrace with the drums. Obviously, he's for various reasons he's not attending. But Liam, one of the other people from that corner, is asking, should we bring the drums back?
Yeah, I love it. I love the drums. I just love sort of because they got to the stage where I'd announce the players and it'd be and it just reminds me of sort of being able to live my sort of Freddie Mercury Queen fantasies, and that come on, give me a beat. And yeah, I'm happy with that. I remember going back to the Devils back in. We used to have a crazy drummer, my friend Paul Sullivan, up in the stands, and yeah, it was a massive thing. And I didn't know what Robbo's situation is, but yeah, I'd love to have that. I'd love to have that drum back. I'd have everything. I'd have CO2 cannons. And I wouldn't have flamethrowers. I'm not into flamethrowers. I think it's not ecologically friendly having all these flamethrowers, but that's just me. But yeah, I'd have. Yeah, we'd like to do stuff. CO2 cannons, t-shirt cannons, but it's money. I went to the cricket the other week, right? I went to the 100, and I just sort of when I go to gigs with my daughter, she says to me, "Dad, you've got such a niche way of looking at events." Because I was sat at the cricket, I was counting the speakers around the ground because basically that cricket is so good because whatever music we play at a sports stadium, whatever music you play, the tannoy is designed for public address. So it's designed for hello, how are you? So we can play all the best music we want, but unless you've got loads of like bottom end speakers, you won't get it. So at the cricket now, all around that pitch are loads of speakers that are giving all that and in the stadium next door, they've got loads of bass cabinets all around it. This is my niche DJing background. But yeah, we had it at Summerfest on Saturday. It was great, but because of all the speakers are going towards the stands, when we're trying to speak to people in the courtyard, as it were, we couldn't really get a message across. So it's God bless her, the Arms Park, right? Literally, we know it needs modernising, but in a sympathetic way. But it all comes down to funds at the end of the day, and we all do what we can with the funds available, don't we?
Yeah, I suspect that wish list is pretty long from the club for the Arms Park, what they want to do with it. Shifting on to wardrobe choices. For those people who are watching along, you see just behind Rob there, the famous blue and black jacket. Where does so Rob on Twitter asks, where did it come from? And then CF10, the Rugby Trust, asks, how do you get the curry stains out?
See, who's that? CF10? That's probably Neil. That's Neil McSorley, probably. I remember one season. I'd always try and pinch enough, pinch kit to wear. So I used to wear like Cardiff gear and all that. And then one season, only a few seasons ago, I thought, right, I'm fed up of choosing what to wear, so I'll get this jacket made. And it was, it's a company called Team Blazers, and they make them to your specification. And I've actually messaged the guy saying, can we? Because Jason in the clubhouse gave me the exact palette color of the blue that was about the Cambridge blue and black, whatever it is. So I'm working on that. I'd like a quarters one day. And then last season, for a laugh, I had the baseball jacket made, but it doesn't feel the same as the blazer. The match day is the blazer, when I put it on. It's so that the bomber jacket was. You can get them up. It's amazing what you can get on the internet nowadays. But yeah, they're nice. And so the 1876 one, I just had that because I think I'll save that for this 2026 is our 150th, isn't it?
Yeah,
which is going to be pretty amazing. That Cardiff and Canton Rugby Club, incidentally, the same year.
Oh, that's got to be a pre-season friendly lined up there, surely. We had another question on Twitter from Ben who asked, "What's your favorite game or memory from working in recent years? What's one that stands out?" And I'm thinking particularly how good was the most recent season with like that run of home games, Bath Harlequins, and that with the sellouts. How good were they to work?
In fact, you've reminded me. Another one of my earliest Sam's Park memories is the Rebel season, and standing by the clubhouse. I think we were playing Saracens, and you could barely get to the pitch. I was literally on the corner, between the clubhouse and the grandstand and the family stand, and it was 3 or 4 deep at that corner, standing there. And yeah, those Anglo Welsh fixtures, it's banging the same drum. It's not in my power, but those Anglo Welsh games, there's something about them in there. It's the fact that I was chatting this afternoon, what we said before we went on air, and it was like they're all within 2 hours drive. You got all these places. I mean, I've been to Gloucester away. Tom James when played for Cardiff, and then Olivier Azam got sent off for that headbutt at Gloucester. That was an amazing day out, and you just get on the train, go there, have a few beers, watch the game, and then come back. I did it with Bath the same. We remember standing in the rain watching, playing against Bath. It's all these fantastic clubs that we get to play so rarely, and yet they are within 2 hours of us. I know this. I know there are fantastic reasons why it's not as easy, but if you were to come down as an alien and looked at the rugby situation, you'd be like, "Wow, why aren't these people playing this people in there?" But that's my opinion. I'm not in no way endorsed by Cardiff Rugby Club. There we are.
No, it is. It is very true. You mentioned earlier, obviously, you've done. I think I've read that I think your claim to fame is that you've done every major sporting organisation announced for them in Wales. Is that right? Is that what your CV would say?
My first claim to fame is that I scored the first ever try for Canton in the National Leagues in 1996. But there are others. But yeah, so I've done the football, the hockey, the rugby, Wales Deaf Rugby. People love it when I say I've done Wales Deaf Rugby. Why are you the announcer for Wales Deaf Rugby? But I've done it, and it's brilliant, and they're fantastic guys. Did the women, did the Gwalior Storm, did next door at the stadium. Yeah, did the cricket 2020. Yeah, I did most of them. Oh, did the women's hockey at the Welsh Institute of Sport. That was an international tournament with like Ukraine, Russia, Czechoslovakia, and Wales, and so the names were brilliant. I do I always channel, God rest his soul. I always channel Eddie Butler because whenever there was a match at the Arms Park and it was tricky, and Eddie would always be, I just chat to Eddie and say, "What do you think about this, Ed? What's this going to be?" And there was the famous when we were playing the South African teams, and we always talk about the sort of the I can't even do it. There's a bit in the sort of Zulu thing where it's like a it's not even it's a click. Yeah, we were like, oh god, and it's fantastic. Yeah, so so I like nowadays, like going back to your message about the embarrassing moments. I just say, look, here's the teams, and forgive me if I get any of them wrong. And it's just funny. People laugh now, and I if it's a really tricky one, I'll try and speak to the team liaison guy and get some hints really on how they're gonna be. But yeah, that's part of the challenge really. And I always think of Eddie. I literally think of Eddie Butler and and how he would do it, and also things like a friend of mine. Any conversation you have with me at some stage will involve Iron Maiden. But so Blaze Bailey, who was the singer in Iron Maiden for a while, said to me like he tries to do everything really slowly and clearly so everyone in the stadium can hear you. And I don't do that sometimes, but I then stop and think, right, slow it down and say, "Good evening, everyone, welcome." Because you forget, you're on a microphone and there's 15,000 people there having a beer. They might forget, they might not hear what you've said. You've got to try and make it clear and precise. But I don't do that enough. But I always try and remember to do it. There we are.
Obviously, you mentioned a couple of the sort of bars and clubs and stuff around Cardiff that you've been involved in over the years. Philly, and you had Live Lounge and Kiwis and stuff. I seem to remember as well. And um, obviously you're the owner of Fuel these days. How many others are you involved in now?
It's only Fuel, really. I actually Fuel's the only place that I run, really. We took it over. We started off as a club night in 2006. The other place I just worked at, yeah, you made me laugh. I must have forgotten Kiwis when they moved Kiwis from Wyndham Arcade to where it is now. I remember seeing James, one of the owners, and yeah, I did that. It was quite funny. But Kiwis is Kiwis. It's wonderful, but it's not my style. There, the music's very specific. Um, Live Lounge, another chap, Rob, that owns that, is a dear friend of mine, and he got me working after the Philharmonic. And then I remember turning 50 during lockdown and becoming a grandfather and thinking I can't go back to doing 4 a.m.s in Live Lounge anymore. I told my partner once, I said to her, look, if I'm still DJ when I'm 30, shoot me. And I stopped when I was 50. Right. And yeah, so and so anyway, so I was doing all these nightclubs, but I just really like heavy metal. I'm a massive Iron Maiden fan, and I thought, right, I want to do a rock club. So set one up, and and then the rest is history. Really, we're 2006, so we're heading into it'd be 20. We're heading to our 18th birthday, really. So yeah, so it's only Fuel that I'm fully involved with at the moment.
It feels like town's changed quite a lot in recent years with the sort of nightlife and the clubs and that. It's kind of gravitated back more towards St. Mary, like proper St. Mary Street has had a bit of a resurgence maybe in the last few years with a lot of new venues opening up. Is that something? I don't know if that's just me growing up, moving across town as well, going from Greyfriars Road more towards that end of town. But is that fair?
You're totally correct. Those of us who've been around for years always talk about that. It's like the town used to shift on its axis every now and then. Yeah, you're right. I mean, you're saying Greyfriars Road. When they opened Live Lounge, it was Bar Cuba, and Bar Cuba was dead in the water. And then everything started moving there. Then Greyfriars Road opened up. Then for a while, it was down the end of St. Mary Street when the Philharmonic was insane on a Thursday night. It shifts around when something new. So Mill Lane's having a bit of a resurgence with Heidi's and our good friends in Pitch and all that, and yeah, it shifts around. I had this epiphany. I was in Brewhouse one night, and the thing is with Fuel is that most of your other venues are chasing the same customer or the same demographic. Fuel's customers are Fuel customers. Most of them like rock music, or they're there, and it's not the perfect venue, but it's that my long suffering partner says that the best thing about having a rock club is I don't have to have Rob's rubbish on the walls of the house. So it's all over the walls in Fuel. And someone said to me, where'd you get all this stuff from? What'd you buy? I said, you buy it all from my house. It's from my bedroom walls as a kid. But no, it's great. I mean, I've met all my heroes. I've met Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden, who's a massive rugby fan. I had a conversation. So there was a great Twitter conversation with Jamie Roberts, bless him. And Jamie was at the World Cup in France, in Paris. And he posted a picture on Twitter of him with all these rugby players and Bruce from Iron Maiden. And I was like, Jamie, how came you with Bruce? And he was like, yeah. He said we were sat down with each other and he's chatting away to this chap, and this chap's and I'm an airline pilot, and didn't realize he was sat next to the singer of Iron Maiden. And he was like, oh, he's mad. So, yeah, I met Bruce and lucky enough to see him all around the world. And yeah, like I said to you, I'm terrible. I'm literally every conversation you have with me will at some stage involve Iron Maiden. And my friends they describe the limo screen. They just go, and the window comes out when I start talking about it. Well, there we are.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like Spain, technically where Fuel is on Wouldn't Street, and you've got Welsh Club opposite. And I've played a very terrible band, but played a few places along St Mary's Street, and of course help my mates out. I think when Fuel not long ago opened, you did a battle of bands there. It's one of my favourite places to go on a night out. Actually, Fuel. I think I am that demographic who gets not really interested in the Greyfriars Road area so much. But I was just wondering, so what I know we're normally a rugby podcast, but just wondering if you could talk a little bit about challenges facing live music venue, how they can be eased, and can you shift those problems to sort of rugby and live sport as well?
it's an interesting connection. Yeah, I think I was thinking about this the other day. I can't remember what I was thinking about it. It was to do with, well, to start with what I know best, which is the live music thing. Is we refer to ourselves as the research and development arm of the music industry. That's where. So one of the biggest bands that come out of Fuel is Hold an Absence, who are like the general public won't know, but they're touring all over the world. And then one of their members, Tom Pike, is now working for Sleep Token, who are a huge band. And it's like we're the starting block for bands, but not only bands, but producers, sound techs, tour managers. And you don't start off. I guess it's like grassroots rugby. You don't start off playing for Wales or playing at Wembley Stadium. I was just talking to Jamie Roberts. Jamie started off in Rumney Rugby Club, and he said that was the perfect grounding for him to know what real rugby was like. And then you go on to the top league. So they say you don't start playing the CIA. Sam Fender at Reading and Leeds this year. Sam did, I think this is right. He did something like Dempsey's, Club Everbach, and then the CIA. Literally, his rise was that meteoric. And I was posting on Twitter last week. There was a bit of discussion about it, but I think it's like Oasis's big breakthrough Supersonic tour. They played 36 gigs on that, 36 venues on that tour, and debatedly around 11 are still left. There's debate over Cardiff University but it's a different type of venue now. So yeah, there's all these venues disappearing that need to be protected, and what we're into is this idea of they're being owned by a national trust for music venues, and so that circuit gets protected for years. Football, the grassroots, Wembley Stadium, like all those Taylor Swift gigs at Wembley Stadium, some of that ticket money was indirectly supporting grassroots football. It literally was, and you could argue that at the Principality Stadium, some of that money from Taylor Swift does filter down to the rugby, because it's but with us, and that doesn't. So it happens in football, happens in rugby, doesn't happen in music. So that Oasis tour now next year will generate untold millions, and a tiny percentage of that could protect the entire grassroots music scene.
It's incredible as well, because like ticket prices for those big gigs are monumental now. They like, if you want a ticket for some of these big names come into even like the CIA, but particularly when they come to the stadium and stuff. So it can't be much just to take 1 or 2 quid off them and feed them back into the grassroots. Because you're right, like when you explain it like that, yeah, the Principality Stadium pays for Welsh rugby essentially. So why shouldn't those big gigs pay for grassroots music as well? That seems like a no-brainer.
But you look at those charges on the ticket price. Like I think Wembley do a sustainability charge of £2.50 per ticket, which is allegedly to like, oh well, we'll do LED lighting, etc. But if you went and bought like any other project, and Tesco said, right, well, can we charge you £2.50 extra because we want to put like different lighting in Tesco? You'd be like, sod off,
Yeah.
But the live music industry, yeah, it'll. I was talking about the Oasis studio to a friend of mine. I was saying that it's the absolute time for Oasis to do this reunion, because the money is there, but also within the next 20 years, the whole thing could shift. The whole live music scene could shift, because Reading and Leeds had a TikTok stage for the first time ever. So that the generation is changing. That in 10, 20 years time, it might be a whole different thing. There might not be bands or rock bands. There might be people, YouTubers on stage. So Oasis fans and people who think they want to see Oasis will pay. Oops, sorry, my phone's running out of battery. Hold on. They'll think they want to. I mean, yeah, it'll be a great gig. I mean, I saw Oasis on the Be Here Now tour, and it'll be good. But yeah, the money it'll generate will be bonkers.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to when I first went to Reading, like 12, it was 2012. My first Reading was, and I think if a TikTok stage had been there, it might have been burned down by some of the people that were going. But now it's just sort of accepted as part of like what that age of people want, those sort of late teens, early 20s, isn't it?
But burned down or pelted with bottles of unknown liquid, isn't
it? Yeah. Talking of like how music and that sort of stuff influences the economy, and saying about Principality with the rugby, how how important as a business owner in town there, how important are those big international match days to the local city economy? Because I think, yeah, thinking about Judgment Day moving down to Leckwith this year and stuff, and taking sort of 50, 60,000 odd people potentially out of town. Does that those big Six Nations games, are they sort of big earners? Are they really important?
I was thinking about this. I saw the thing because it is a double-edged sword because we kind of love the stadium, but then you get those massive road closures. And it's sort of like every gig, what's the road closures? Oh, we're closing at 11 a.m. Like, okay, that means we're all in work before 11 a.m. But then things like, the Six Nations, like Fuel, for instance, is a place where people who know where it is will go and watch the rugby there because they can get served and they can have they can have a good time there. And because every pub is heaving. So it is good. And then you look at something like Ramstein the year before last. That was the busiest weekend we ever had because Ramstein, fair play to the Foo Fighters, but Ramstein was the first metal gig we've had at the stadium. It was incredible. So we were busy the night before, 2 nights before, and people were from all over the world there. The last time Maiden did the CIA, I had people there from Russia, Sweden, from all over the world there because I follow the band into 27 countries, and it's like the money it brings into the economy from music tourism is huge. You look at that Oasis, you go on booking.com now and look for hotel rooms in Cardiff and next 4th of July. It is mental. But yeah, they are good. The rugby days are brilliant. Not as good as they used to be because there's so many more pubs nowadays. There's so many more places to go. But yeah, it does. But those road closures, I'm always in talks with the council about how we can do things because when those road closures are in place, nothing moves to a certain extent. So the closest place you can get equipment from is Canton Bridge or the Hilton Hotel, which is like 0.8 miles. So when you're carrying speakers and amps, it's a long way. So the Cardiff Council have been great. They did talk about it a lot, but we just don't book bands on rugby days, or we book an acoustic act, and it's fine. But then you take the extra business. And it's really good. And yeah, we're lucky. I'm lucky to see. I saw Billy Joel there that week before last. Foo Fighters was amazing. So it is great. It's a great stadium. It needs more gigs, but then I appreciate totally that to get those gigs is really, really hard. To get AC/DC or Metallica to look outside London and Manchester and Birmingham is really, really hard, even though it's the biggest covered stadium in Europe or something, isn't it?
Yeah. And then sort of to finish off the music ones and bring it back to the Arms Park, Charlie asks, would you ever host a music festival at the Arms Park? And then just to add on to that, what would be your lineup? What would be your top sort of couple of acts?
Well, we had talks about it years ago. My colleague and I, a friend of mine, we were going to put Bullet of My Valentine at the Arms Park because we talked about it. I can't remember, the commercial manager at the time, we had a chat about it. We talked about it. I kind of went to Cardiff Castle, and because going back to Iron Maiden, goodness me, I saw Iron Maiden at the RDS, the Leinster Ground. It was Iron Maiden and Marilyn Manson, and if you're familiar with the RDS, I seem to recall they had the stage where the grandstand is, and it was widthways. So we were on the pitch watching the band. So I would think with the Arms Park, you could have the stage against the north stand, then the boxes would be freed up then to watch the gig, and the airspace lounge you could watch the gig. It could be amazing, and I think there was talk about it, but I think logistically and licensed in, I've always thought you could get like 15, 20,000 in Cardiff's ground. It'd be I don't know what the flats would think about it though. Our dear friends in the Westcott Street flats might have something to say about it. But I'd love to. It'd be bit of a bullet there. I saw Iron Maiden in Twickenham, and that was pretty amazing. So Maiden wouldn't do Cardiff. I put Skin Red on there. Nowadays, it's all the Cardiff bands. Imagine the Manics at Cardiff Arms Park. It'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? James Dean Bradfield is there most matches apparently. He's a season ticket holder apparently, I think. So if you look at, there's a song with James Dean Bradfield and Ian McCulloch from Echo and the Bunnymen. I think it's Some Kind of Bliss or something. And the James's bits are filmed on the terrace of the Arms Park. So I'll send you guys a link and have a look at it. I think he's in the he's on one of those. Anyway, there we are. But no, who would I have? So answer that question. Yeah, could put Bullock on there. Guys from the Gulf, Florence Black, those damn Crows from Bridgend, and yeah, just the local guys really. To be honest, Skindred, Skindred from Newport. I don't know if Benji would play because he's Newport through and through.
He'd have to cleanse himself before returning if he did. We've got some quick fire questions then. That's on the bottom of our list here. So, favorite Cardiff run out song at the Arms Park?
What do we used to have? We had Iron Maiden song. We had Wildest Dreams once. We had Thunderstruck's always a banger. Thunderstruck is fantastic. AC/DC. And Enter Sandman, but that's been done to death by the American football teams. You know, Mike loves Sandstorm. Mike loves it, right? Absolutely loves it, and that's what we go with. And it does have it has a throwback to a certain era that we used to run out to that. But yeah, it's just the rock classic. I think we did One Vision for a while. That was really, really good. Queen One Vision is good. It starts off with that you want to build up and then a ba bow. But the biggest problem is with any run up song is coordinating it all. Because at the rugby, at the international matches, they have the whole thing stage managed really well because they have staff to do it. You have the lights, and then the teams come out when they want them to come out. With Cardiff, we can't stop the players. They're in the tunnel and they come out, and they're all keyed up. So it's like you can plan. Really need to plan it, and when they come out, and yeah, it could be loads of ones to me. But yeah, Queen One or Hammer to Fall, that was pretty good. Something proper stadium rocky is my type of thing.
I did notice one that always sticks in my head is when we had Greatest Showman, just sort of, but it seemed to almost last too long past like the Greatest Showman being a big thing.
That was Ellis Jenkins. That was Ellis. Apparently, it was Ellis. Ellis loved it, and it was like, okay, because he was captain that season, and just like I'd be.
Well, I wouldn't say no to Ellis, so
no, exactly. Yeah, more a gentleman. I mean, I've been in the car all day with my granddaughter, and she loves Frozen and Brave, all the Disney classics, incredible songs. But I don't think it's
that's like you say. You got my car playlist now.
Oh, mental, isn't it? I mean, you could ask the fans, you could ask the players, but sometimes you got to go for it. It's like you go see Metallica, and they come on to Ecstasy of Gold, from Ennio Morricone. It just become sometimes you got to stick with it, and it becomes its own like legend, because Metallica come on and they play the clip with Eli Wallach and Clint Eastwood, and that my always thought has been you want to play whatever piece of music it is, the crowd wherever the fans are, they know it the game's about to start. So if you're in the bar, I gotta go, I go see Maiden. I know gone about them, and they play Doctor Doctor by UFO, and it's almost the best part of the gig for me because I'm so excited that I know before the intro they do Doctor Doctor's on, that you all dance along to it. So I think we could have if we had the same songs before the team about to come on, then to get away from the bar and into your seat, didn't it? Or into your place on the terrace.
Which leads on nicely to the next one. North stand / terrace or south stand / terrace?
Weird, isn't it? Because I think the all my memories, those matches that Sullivan and Yes and Harris gig and the Barbarians gig was on the North Terrace in the far end by the just purely by I guess the sun, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Nearly every game when the weather's nice. I remember I sort of leave my house to go, a lovely day. I don't need a coat at the Arms Park. And I get to where we are, and I remember that flipping shadow, the shadow of the grandstand. It's always cold in the south. it literally is. So, and when we used to do the sort of roving stuff on the mic, I was always, and when we had the cheerleaders, they'd always do it towards the south. So I always try and get over to the north and bring people in. It's almost like a circular thing, isn't it? The north get a raw deal sometimes. All the entertainment's towards the south, isn't it?
I would say as it should be, but that's my own bias is there. So Next three. Just one or either or. So Fleetwood Mac or Big Mac?
Fleetwood Mac. I'm on a really good diet at the moment. I don't eat bread, so I can't have a Big Mac. So it's Fleetwood Mac.
Summerfest or Download?
Download. I haven't missed a Download in a good few years. So yeah, and my good friends at Red Bull defend me there. So that's Download. Sorry, Summerfest.
Pint of beer or Teenis to beer?
Oh, Teenis. What a legend Teenis has been. But a pint of beer, pint of Trooper beer, of course.
That's it. And then would you? You've got three options now: Caroline Street, Chippy Lane, or Chip Alley.
Caroline Street, isn't it? Honestly, right? If you're from Cardiff, it's Caroline Street. It's if Frank Hennessy calls it Caroline Street. But yeah, it's no one to get into that on social media, is it? Like, Caroline Street. But it's Caroline Street.
And then the last one, which is dear friend of the pod, Liam's favourite question for us to ask the guests. What is your favourite biscuit?
I saw this as a fig roll. I like a fig roll, which is a very strange biscuit, isn't it?
That is it. I like that purely because that is the most left field I think anyone's ever come up with. I love it. Don't like fig rolls myself, but I love that as an answer.
Hold its shape well. It's a good dunker. Hold its shape, and it's all good. It's all good. A few in a pack. Perfect. Not that I think of biscuits a lot. Has anyone ever said Jaffa cake?
No,
that's a whole kind of. It's a whole kind of worms, isn't it?
Most are really boring and go chocolate digestive.
Well, Rob, thank you very much for your time. Just a bit of housekeeping before we end the pod quickly. Cardiff are in action this Saturday away at Ealing. The Supporters Club have extended the booking. If you want to go with them, you can do that through their online or contact them on socials. And then obviously the first home preseason game is then a week Friday. So tickets are available for that through the club. Other than that, all that's left to say is, Rob, thanks very much for joining us. Been really good 45 minutes or so there chatting.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, those Supporters Club trips are fantastic. I would be going to Ealing if I could, but I'm otherwise engaged. Yeah, I can't speak highly enough of those guys. They're really, really good trips. And I hope to go on a few more from this season.
Absolutely.
But thank you, guys. Yeah.
Harley, thank you very much for joining me. We'll be back. I think we may have one more guest potentially next week to finish off our summer special guest before we get back into the rugby action early in September. But until then, thank you for listening and goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Cardiff Central podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe, rate and review wherever you listen to us, as it really helps spread the word. You can find us on all the usual social media channels or email us on welshregionalrugbypod@gmail.com. And remember, whatever the question is, rugby is always the answer.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.